Hi, we're here today speaking to Sandy and Chuck from the Bucks County Orchid Society about orchids. They're ready, available at your box stores. You'll be seeing them at your grocery stores and your garden centers. I, however, buy one each year and kill it within a month. So we decided it would be really a great idea to speak with the professionals for some tips and maybe some hints on how to keep these things alive and flourishing in your home. Hi, Sandy. Hi, Chuck.
Hi.
Thank you so much for this little chat.
Oh, happy to do this.
It's lovely. I see that we have beautiful orchids here. And again, they come in so many different varieties and colors, don't they?
They do. That's why I brought some of these in, because most people, when they think of orchids, they see the ones like you'd see in a home box store, and they're beautiful orchids. But there is a great variety of shapes, colors, smells, you name it, orchids have them.
So what do we have here? This one is definitely very, very tropical looking. All three of them are.
Well, yeah, this one that you talked about here is actually from Mexico. It's fragrant. It blooms this time every year. And another very easy one to grow. It's called Cattleya bella. The next one over is a Cattleya. And those were they used to call those the corsage orchids, because women would get corsages on their wrists and whatever before the dances. They grew those just for that purpose. But now they're grown because of their beauty, and they all smell good, at least most of them do.
I'm always fascinated that orchids do have a scent, because I normally have never known that they actually smell this wonderful.
Well, these do not. The Phalaenopsis, this is called the Moth Orchid, and this is what we typically find in the supermarket or the box stores or some other places. And you can get these for $15 to $20, $25. It just really depends on where you shop. But these are not fragrant for the most part.
Are they easier to grow than some of these beautiful ones?
I really like the Phalaenopsis because they come in an assortment of shades and colors, and the flowers will last anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks.
That's really long.
So that is really, I think that's the record for most orchids when you say
that. And yes, and dendrobiums are the two long-lasting ones.
Mm-hmm. So
I've used dendrobiums in like floral arrangements and things like that. And I remember giving my grandmother one of these beautiful ones for Easter every year. I think they still sell them like that as a corsage for Easter.
Yes, they do.
So Sandy, this came from one of the box stores or the grocery store. It comes in a sleeve like that.
Right.
Is that a really good way to actually keep an orchid in that tight of a confined?
The sleeve is nice for transportation because you can pick it up and carry it easily. It's protected from the elements, but you do want to take the sleeve off. How most people will just rip it off. You can kind of extract it this way. The important thing to remember is you have to be a little bit careful with the buds. Might be more delicate, and I'm being careful because I might want to.
Much bigger than I thought it would be, even in the sleeve. It's just amazing. And there is some buds. I mean, when I go to the store, would I want some more buds on that?
I would suggest to buy, if you're getting it as a gift especially, you want to buy something that's fully open but still has buds, because the buds will continue to open over the next few weeks. This one has a little tag on it that says just add three ice cubes once a week, which we don't really recommend because these are tropical plants and the cold of the ice will shock the roots. However, one big problem with orchids is and other plants, people tend to overwater them with the best of intentions, but they come in a container that does not allow for drainage. So at some point you can extract the plastic pot. It's not so easy because it's pretty tightly fitted in here, but anyway, so 3 tablespoons of water, let's say once a week.
What I always recommend to people that are growing these, it's not how much water you put in, it's how often you water. So you can take this to the sink once a week, turn the faucet on, and just flood the bottom of the orchid, the medium part. But you do not want to get any water in the leaves, because the water will lay there in the leaf and it will rot
the orchid and it will die.
Is that the crown?
That's
what
called
you're
the
talking
crown.
about?
This is called the crown, where
Right.
the new growth will come, and if water is allowed to lay in there, it will cause the whole plant to
Right.
rot. So
I have a question.
Sure.
The medium that you prefer, you know, I see orchid bark is what I heard, orchid bark,
Oh.
and also moss, sphagnum moss.
Yes.
Are these both acceptable, or is there something that you prefer?
Well, a lot of these that are grown in Thailand and places like that, they start in sphagnum moss, and sometimes you get them that way with the moss, and it works great, but it's easy to overwater that.
And keep the water
It would
in.
keep the water in too long. So
Mhm.
what we, at least what I would tend to do, and I see this one is also potted in bark. Bark will drain much easier, and it gives the roots a little extra air to breathe. And I find that the plants work better in bark as compared to sphagnum.
Also, a question I have is, and I don't know if this is true, but the roots that are laying outside of and they're beautiful actually, they make a very naturalistic look. They, I hear, are also good for photosynthesis for the plant. Is that correct?
Sometimes these are grown in clear pots, and all the roots will turn green.
Really?
And that's good because the more green, the more food the plant's getting. So yes, they're green because they're exposed to sunlight. The ones right now in the pot won't be, but if they did get exposed, they would turn green also.
That's amazing, and that's very interesting that a root actually
Yes.
can do some photosynthesis for the plant and give it actual food, which
Well,
is
remember,
very interesting.
I'm sorry, these are hanging in trees normally.
Right.
So the roots are hanging down, they're exposed to sunlight all the time. So it's actually part of the food making process for the plant.
So really, when you bring them into a pot like that and overwater, it's easy to overwater because they usually are in air and actually being exposed to humidity, right? And different elements like actually air that goes through, right?
So
that
air
there's-
circulation is a
air
good
circulation
thing.
is
Yeah.
important.
Right.
So if you have a collection, for example, you want to have a ceiling fan. I have a sunroom, so I have a ceiling fan, and Chuck has a greenhouse, so he has a larger fan that really circulates the air. And the humidity is also important too.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and that's what I wanted to also talk about.
Mhm.
Just how would you spray your orchid, and how often would you want to do that?
I don't. Now, people that grow, we call the windowsill growers, the folks that grow at home. If you have a tray that you're going to set your pots in, that you can put water, as long as it doesn't, contact the bottom of the pot. They make special trays that have like a little lattice work that you can put water and then the pots. That's great. Humidity in the air around the leaves is fine. But when you, start spraying the leaf, again, you have to watch that you don't get water trapped in the crown or in those leaves that you're spraying. So I recommend doing something in the environment that makes humidity,
Very interesting.
but not spraying the leaves. That's just my
That's
So,
interesting.
I do spray the leaves and the roots, and I put a light fertilizer in with the water, and I try and spray them almost every day, just a little bit. And I also run a humidifier in my sunroom, and I feel like that humidity gets through the house, and it's good for us also because we have a hot air heat system. So the more humidity we have for us, the better.
I have a question for both of you. We're speaking about humidity and keeping them a little bit of humid, and also the circulation of air. I was wondering if you had a tray and you had some gravel with it lightly wet, and then the pot that is draining. Is that probably a good idea
Yeah.
for a windowsill
That
type
would
of
also
setup?
work very well, sure.
Okay.
We have
And-
growers that do that actually, so.
Well, that's a good thing because then you can sort of make it very decorative if
Mm-hmm.
you wanted to. And also, I hear that it's important the positioning. I get this home, I put it on my dining room table in a closed room, no direct sunlight anywhere, leave it for about 3 weeks, and then I put it out on a sill in my kitchen, not even paying attention what direction the sun is coming
Right.
in.
Well, that is important with what Sandy brought, the Phalaenopsis. They like bright light, but they don't want to be broiled. So they do very well in an east window, they do well in a west window, no north,
Gotcha.
and south, you're going to have to pull it away from the window or you'll burn them.
I see. So they can get sunburn.
Yes, they get big
Oh.
black spots on the leaves.
Really?
Yes.
So that's not like even a bacteria, which I
No.
thought it might be on mine that was in the window. So it's actually, it's a burn.
Yes.
So that's very interesting. Lighting, if you do have a setup and really want to go to town on this and really become a grower and a maintainer and a wonderful mother of these beautiful things, would you invest in lights? Would that be something that you have done at all?
We have bought, we purchased full spectrum lights that my husband installed, and I think it helps. It's got a help ring.
Yeah, I have lights in my front greenhouse because it's just a location that doesn't get enough on its own. And a lot of our home growers do use light systems. Some use fluorescent, some use LED, but it does work.
Okay, well that's kind of nice. And keeping them warm, I think. In some instances, you don't want to put this in maybe a cold room.
Well, this type, I think, prefers temperatures 55 or above.
Yes.
And some of the other ones, for example, the cymbidiums, which we don't have here, but they prefer cooler temperatures, especially at night. Some orchids actually need a drop in temperature at night in order to get them to bloom, but I wouldn't say that's true about the Cattleyas.
Yeah, a real quick recommendation. Yeah. If you're going to grow orchids at home, I really recommend that you go to the American Orchid Society site, and for almost any orchid you want to grow, there's an instruction sheet.
Absolutely.
And it'll tell you how much light, how much water, how to fertilize, how to pot, everything will be on the sheet. And it really does help a lot, because just getting an orchid home and sticking it in a window and hoping it may grow, but it may not.
So there is a lot of information out there. We are going to say thank you to Sandy and Chuck for all their unbelievable information. I am going to go out, buy myself an orchid and see how I do. I'll let you know. Also on our website, you can join the Bucks County Orchid Society. Please check that out. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.